Jacob and the Narcissist playbook, the lies, the masks, and the blessings. Now, what if I told you the first Narcissist in the Bible wasn't a king, wasn't a queen, or a villain, but one of the patriarchs? And that's right, I'm talking about Jacob, the one that is renamed Israel, and the one God used mightily. Was first a deceiver, was a manipulator, and a supplanter. And this is not your average Sunday school lesson. This is spiritual warfare wrapped in family drama, generational manipulation, and divine intervention. Jacob didn't just lie, he stole identity. He usurped someone else's identity. He usurped someone else's destiny and also outplayed his own blood to get ahead. Sound familiar? That's because the spirit of narcissism is not new. It didn't start with social media or toxic relationships. It started in the womb, and we can see that from Genesis 25:22 to 26. And Jacob's story shows us just how dangerous it can be when deception dresses itself as destiny. But God, I repeat, but God, even narcissists can be transformed if they are willing to wrestle with God and come out limping in surrender. Let's dive deep into Genesis and uncover the truth, not just about Jacob, but about how you can break free from deception, reclaim your identity, and walk in the truth of who God says you are. But before I delve deeper into the video, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Iyabo, Oyawale, and by the grace of the Almighty, I'm a narcissistic abuse survivor. And on this channel, I share narcissistic abuse recovery tips as well as biblical wisdom for dealing with the scourge, the pain, and the mess of narcissistic abuse and emotional trauma. And if you are serious about healing from narcissistic abuse and emotional trauma, you're going to hit the subscribe button right away in order for you to become a member of this community, because this is a strong and supportive community, and we hold hands virtually in our fight against narcissistic abuse. And so you are in good company by subscribing. Hit the subscribe button. It takes less than a minute to do that. And turn on notifications, because when you do, you'll be notified when we go live. We go live every Saturday, 12 noon WAT. We don't miss it. And we discuss different aspects of narcissistic abuse. And this coming Saturday, we're going to talk about how to deal with the rage, resentment, and the bitterness you feel after narcissistic abuse. It's going to be an explosive session, and I see God delivering his people who have been bound by the chains of resentment and bitterness for so many years. And last week we talked about the power of forgiving other people. It's also an explosive session. You can check our live tab to be able to watch it. And so what are we talking about today? We're talking about Jacob in the Bible, a supplanter redeemed by grace. It's a spiritual breakdown of Genesis 27. And there's a powerful case to be made that Jacob in his early years displayed strong narcissistic tendencies. And it was marked by deception, marked by manipulation, and marked by selfish ambition. Now, scripture does not hide its flaws, and that's why I like the Bible. The Bible shows us that the people in it are ordinary people, just like you and I, with flaws, with weaknesses, but they are redeemed by grace, just as we are also redeemed by grace today. In fact, the KJV uses words like subtlety, Genesis 27:35, also uses words like supplanter, Genesis 27:36, and repeatedly shows Jacob as one who sought to gain through cunning, through deceit. And in Genesis 25:29 to 34, we see Jacob leveraging Esau's desperation. Esau was famished and faint, and he returns from the field, and Jacob seizes that vulnerable moment to demand a birthright in exchange for a simple meal. Though Esau showed disregard for his birthright, Jacob's actions reflect calculated opportunism. It mirrors what narcissists often do, expecting others at their lowest point to gain power or advantage. Narcissists also wait at your point of need to be able to get what they want, to be able to get control as well as power. Now, just like narcissists today, Jacob offered what seemed like care, quote and unquote, CARE, or provision, that is food, but it was transactional and self-serving. Proverbs 26:25 warns us, when he speaketh fair, believe him not, for there are 7 abominations in his heart. And so don't believe what the narcissist says. there are abominations in his heart. And later in Genesis 27, Jacob, encouraged by his mother Rebekah, deceives his father Isaac to steal Esau's blessing. Though the plot is initiated by Rebekah, Jacob's compliance is revealing. Instead of objecting, he says, peradventure my father will feel me, and I shall seem to him as a deceiver. That's Genesis 27 verse 12. His concern is not about right or wrong, but about being caught. Can you just imagine that? He was more worried about being caught than being right or wrong. And so he went further by dressing in Esau's clothes, and also covering himself in goat skins to impersonate his brother. In doing so, he deceived not just Esau, but his aging father. This act wasn't just about stealing a blessing. It was about identity theft. Something narcissists are known for. They try to become you, they take your place, and they usurp your identity, much like Jacob did to Esau. Now, the name Jacob literally means supplanter, one who seizes or displaces by trickery or force. And this is affirmed in Genesis 27:36 when Esau cries out, "Is not he rightly named Jacob? For he has supplanted me these 2 times." Well, the story doesn't end there. Yes, in a divine twist of poetic justice, Jacob meets his match in Laban. Just as Jacob deceived, he is also deceived. He labors 7 solid years expecting to marry Rachel, only to be tricked into marrying Leah. That's in Genesis 29 verse 25. Laban still continues to manipulate him, keeping him bound for 20 solid years. That's in Genesis 31 verse 41. Now Jacob, the one who took advantage of others, now finds himself humbled, used, and delayed. Now Galatians 6 verse 7 echoes this. Be not dismayed, God is not mocked. For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. Yet here is the beauty of redemption. Jacob's transformation begins in Genesis 32 when he wrestles with a divine being all night. He clings and cries, "I will not let thee go except thou bless me." That's in Genesis 32 verse 26. Now that moment of vulnerability, that moment of desperation, that moment of surrender is a turning point. His name is changed from Jacob supplanter, that is Jacob meaning supplanter, to Israel meaning one who wrestles with God and prevails, symbolizing a shift in identity and purpose. Now, even those with narcissistic traits, when brought low and made to wrestle with their true selves in the presence of God, can be transformed. And James 4 verse 10 reminds us, humble yourselves in the sight of the Lord, and he shall lift you up. Now, the story of Jacob is not just a cautionary tale about manipulation and deceit. It's also a testimony of God's mercy. It's also a testimony of the possibility of change. It's also about how divine encounters can rewire even the most cunning hearts. And so I've talked about the possibility of change for narcissists, but the narcissist must be willing to surrender. The narcissist must be willing to humble himself before God. The narcissist must be willing to face himself, just as Jacob did. Until that happens, change is impossible. Transformation is impossible. But with God, all things are possible. But the narcissist must play his own part. Until the narcissist plays his own part, God's part doesn't come in. And so let me ask you this question. Would you like me to send you a printable PDF workbook containing this guide as well as affirmations and journaling pages? Please type send PDF in the comments and I'll send it to you ASAP. Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like this video, don't forget to share it, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel, because this coming Saturday we are going to have a live session on how to deal with the rage, resentment, and bitterness you feel after narcissistic abuse, and it's going to be an explosive session. And so hit the subscribe button and I'll see you in my next video.